Hello, and welcome to the next breakout session in security. In this session, we take you through a deep dive in solving a critical but often hard to accomplish security objective of least privilege. My name is Abhi Yadav. I'm a product manager at Google for Identity and Access Management. And today I'm excited to share with you Google's latest innovation in IAM called Policy Intelligence. And joining me today is a brilliant panel. First, we have Vandy, who's a product manager and researcher at Google working in policy intelligence. Hi, Vandy.
Hi, Abhi. Hi, everyone.
And later joining us is Guillaume Blaquiere, who's a certified expert in Google Cloud and also the lead architect at Veolia, an organization with more than 170,000 employees. And he will walk us through some of Veolia's advanced tooling and journey in achieving least privilege in the cloud. Now, when I think of the cloud, I sometimes think of this airplane cockpit, but the cloud probably has more knobs and dials than this cockpit does. It is, well, complicated. So some customers like Veolia have tens of thousands of projects in the cloud, and these resources get spun up and down faster than their security teams can keep up with them. Add to this multiple layers of policy control, and you have a rather complex security environment. And even if you have the right information, it's fairly difficult to know if you've made the right decision. So as a result, in this environment, maintaining least privilege is often a challenging and never-ending task where failure can have pretty high consequences. So at Google, we ran a study of our customers and found that 95% of permissions that were given were never used. So over-provisioning is a real common problem and a threat when somebody you think should just have read access also has the ability to take down production. And there are several factors causing this. There's a lack of visibility into understanding how well policies are configured, understanding effective access effectively, weak governance and oversight that leads to practices like model after that go unchecked, and the elastic nature of cloud that makes it more difficult to audit, often leading to carryover access from previous assignments. Now, ideally, you want to construct your policies in a way that you reach a state of measurable least privilege, where you limit the attack surface by granting users only the permissions they need at the time they need it. But we've seen that customers often hesitate about changing their policies because they don't want to break anything, but this exposes them to risk. And generally, people tend to underestimate the risk they're in. I think it's just human nature. So our goal here in this entire area is to give you a better understanding of the policies you have and to help you manage them at scale, so you can balance the trade-off between security and developer velocity. After all, our customers come to us to tell us that the promise of cloud is that we shall make your security better, just like ours. So we want to help you understand where you are exposed and how you can design better so you don't get breached. So if you are a security professional concerned about this, like Steve here is some practical and prescriptive guidance from Google on how you should think about achieving for least privilege. So Steve needs to ensure that access is appropriate to business need and have, reach a goal at the end where policy management is scalable, it's timely and effective. So let's look at some of Steve's challenges and blind spots. First, how does Steve define what is appropriate access? To begin with, he needs to know what users have access to today. Then, to scope it down, what's safe to remove? Steve could do this through trial and error, but that's time consuming. And how do you know what users will need in the future? Secondly, how do you get a good understanding of risk without being an expert in Google Cloud, of course? So Steve is concerned about buckets being exposed to the internet or the risk of a service account being misused for lateral movement. Overgranting can also be caused by simple, unintentional human error that can also result in data loss or infrastructure changes that are often hard to revert. Now, after you solve all these problems, how do you change your policies in a way that is safe so it doesn't break anything in production, and that scales so that Steve and you can do this uniformly across the organization using code? And lastly, Steve needs to make sure that this is measurable so he can report back that he is moving the organization towards least privilege. Now, all of this is obviously much easier said than done. At Google, we believe that hiring and solving this problem by just hiring and staffing cybersecurity experts in today's world is not a scalable solution to these problems. We believe the answer lies in intelligence and automation. And so we built our product, Policy Intelligence, to assist users as they move through the life cycle of policy management to manage these policies securely and with confidence. And we do this by fusing the magic of Google, which is data, machine learning, throughout your cloud experience. A way to think about this is think about the way cars have evolved. Today's cars kind of seem like the car on the left. It's manual and unguided. And we want to upgrade the experience like modern cars and beyond with the help of tools that we provide to make your security much better. So we want to effectively take policy management through this same upgrade to achieve intelligence and automation like we did with cars. So we asked ourselves, what can we do to empower our customers in this way? And after speaking with many of you, we found that the answers were clearly in 3 areas. First, you want to find out what went wrong quickly so you can take action right away with troubleshooting tools. Secondly, you want to prevent mistakes from happening altogether with analytical tools. And thirdly, you want to improve your cloud easily with actionable recommendations. Now to talk to you and walk you through these products in detail, I'll hand it over to Vandy for a deep dive.
Thanks, Abhi. So let's start with Policy Troubleshooter. We designed it to make it super easy for you to understand why a user doesn't have access. When you're in the midst of doing something, it's frustrating to see an error message and not know what to do next, especially when you expect your policies have been set up correctly. This might seem like a simple issue, but it can be surprisingly hard to troubleshoot. Without Troubleshooter, you'd have to scan all the policies across the hierarchy one by one. You'd have to find the policy that allows the API call. And if that policy has a group, you need to manually check if the user is in the group. All of this takes a lot of time. And our customers don't want security to be in the way of productivity. So admins like Steve would usually unblock their developers by granting them overly permissioned roles just so they're not blocked. Now, with self-service tools like Policy Troubleshooter, a developer can hit troubleshoot when they see an error message and share the URL of the troubleshooter to Steve. The error message automatically passes the principal, resource, and permission. Policy Troubleshooter will show you all the relevant policies across the hierarchy so admins like Steve can make a decision on the best place to grant the developer access. It helps Steve understand which roles are needed to unblock this developer, and also helps you make decisions on where in the hierarchy to grant roles. At times, a user might even be blocked because they're not a member of the right group, and Troubleshooter can help you figure this out. Troubleshooter also highlights dynamic access control issues, such as when conditions are applied. For example, a developer might get an error if she accesses a resource after 5 p.m. And Troubleshooter will easily tell Steve the issue is the user did not meet the time condition. With Policy Troubleshooter, Steve now feels that he's in a position to not only establish the principle of least privilege, but actually maintain it instead of simply granting overly permissive roles to everyone who comes to him with "my access isn't working" type of issues. So here are some ways you can use Policy Troubleshooter. If you're not sure if a service account that is buried in a group can reach a resource, Troubleshooter will show you group membership even for nested groups. Designed as an admin self-service tool, you can integrate this into your help desk tools like Jira. And we're excited to announce we're extending this to support VPC service controls and identity-aware proxy errors. While Steve was troubleshooting for his developer, he was surprised to see owner roles assigned on his project. So Policy Analyzer is our query tool that can help you reduce your organizational risk through improved visibility. If you're looking to understand who has access to what does that access secure, and what are users doing with that access, you can do so efficiently with Policy Analyzer. Steve quickly uses Policy Analyzer to find out who has the owner role in his organization and where it was granted. He selects the owner role and does the query. In the results, Steve can now see members who have this role. With Policy Analyzer, Steve is able to answer this question and many more. In addition to this one he had in mind, he runs a couple of other queries. Which VMs can John delete? Who has write access on this BigQuery dataset? It feels like magic. If you're wondering how someone's access will change when they move from one group to another, use Policy Analyzer to understand access impact. Also use it to query and create reports for privilege escalation and access certification. And if you're wondering what changed in a policy and when, use Policy Analyzer to understand the history of your policies. But before Steve changes the owner role, he wants to make sure he doesn't break anything. With Policy Simulator, Steve can check the proposed policy changes against the 90-day access history of the user to see if the changes would block any essential access that was previously used. Steve knows Anita often works in BigQuery, so he changes Anita's owner role to BigQuery admin. Policy Simulator shows which permissions would have been newly granted with the BigQuery admin role and which permissions would be revoked. With Policy Simulator's results, Steve can assess the impact of the change and ensure Anita's productivity is not impacted. These analytical tools like Troubleshooter, Analyzer, and Simulator can help you figure out what your current state of policies are. Then we have tools like the Recommender to give you proactive guidance on how to achieve least privilege. And to tell you about this, I'll hand it back to Abhi.
Thank you, Vandy. That was great. So we introduced IAM Recommender last year at Next 2019 to help customers achieve least privilege with least effort. And since then, we are super excited that thousands of customers around the world are using this every day to minimize their attack surface. Now, this product helps security and non-security professionals identify unneeded access to GCP. Using machine learning, we provide smart access control recommendations. Right here in the IAM page, the recommender is going to show you how many permissions are given and how many are actually being used. There's no need to collect and pass through activity logs. We've done all that hard work for you. In the backend, we store and process petabytes of log data daily at no additional charge to our customers. We now simply show you this data and these results right here next to the user's role assignment. Now, it looks like most of the members of my project here are okay. There are a few that are using a lot less than were granted. And you can see 3 light bulbs have popped up. This is where our ML models have found a recommendation for a better fitting role. Automatically, in the background, I had to do no work. Now, this service account on the top row has owner role with about 1,800 permissions assigned, but it has used only 31 of them. So now IAM Recommender is going to tell me that I should change its role to reduce the attack surface. And if I need, I can click to get more details. So here the tool shows me the analysis behind the recommendation. It suggests the service account should be moved to the BigQuery admin role, and why? By highlighting the permissions here that are safe to remove in red. Now, ML also picks up that this account will need the saved queries update permission in the future based on similar usage patterns. Now, this is a permission it already has, but it has not yet used. And you can find this marked everywhere with the blue ML icon. So we do this because we want to make sure that users or service accounts don't miss out on permissions, and you don't have to come back later to request more. And now, in our latest update, we have also added the ability for you to customize the recommendation. If you want to remove a permission or add one, you can do that right here in the recommendation screen in context, which creates a custom role. And now your custom role will be based on actual activity data and improved with Google ML to suggest which permissions you need to add based on observed patterns in the cloud. So you just need to hit apply, and that will make the change, creates the custom role, and assigns it to the service account. And now this custom role will be recommended to other members as needed. Another area we have invested in this year is making recommendations easier to discover. So project teams can self-serve in the cloud console, in the IAM page, as we have shown you already. Now they can also find recommendations in a recommendation hub that is located in the cloud console dashboard. Here, project teams can review the insights and the recommendations and apply them if they have the permission. Secondly, for central security teams, we now support out-of-the-box integration with BigQuery. So with a few simple steps, you can export all your recommendations to a BQ table. Now, this will allow you to create org-wide custom reports. So for example, if you want a view of over-provisioning across your production workloads, or if you want to analyze a given permission for a service account, you can do that very easily here with using our analytical tools. And lastly, we expose insights and recommendations through APIs with methods such as get, claim, mark as succeeded. So in addition to automating recommendations, we've also had some customers use this to create alerts and reminders. So they're sending weekly digests to their project teams, alerting them that they should take action. So here are some ways that you can get started with IAM Recommender today. Number one, to protect against lateral movement, we recommend a defense in depth strategy. A key piece of this approach includes limiting members who have the act as permission on projects as well as service accounts. So you can use IAM Recommender to ensure that users are not assigned the service account user role at the project level. Also, you can use Recommender to understand where service accounts have permissions across projects. So for example, if a service account that is in project A has been granted a role in project B, you can use Recommender to understand where these can be removed to mitigate lateral movement threats. Secondly, just don't use owner and editor legacy roles. These are not recommended. And you can use IAM Recommender today to scope down the access to more granular roles. Our product now provides a migration path from these legacy roles to multiple and smaller roles, which is best practice. So you can go from a large owner role to more fine-grained roles. And lastly, as we saw earlier, you can use this feature to create meaningful custom roles based on activity data, actual activity data, and machine learning. And lastly, I'd like to share with you some pro tips. If you have, like many of our customers, thousands of projects and recommendations, to start with developing a prioritization strategy in a framework to identify the severity of these recommendations in the context of your cloud environment, so you can understand which ones you want to apply first. Think about exporting these recommendations to your existing IGA or access certification tools, and this will help speed up your resource owner or user manager certifications. And you can use these recommendations with insights to understand what access a user has across projects. And lastly, when using our APIs, don't forget to mark recommendations as succeeded, as when you have applied them, this will help you track your progress towards least privilege. So now I'm super excited to introduce Guillaume to talk about Veolia's journey in using policy intelligence to achieve least privilege. Veolia is one of Google Cloud's largest customers in the world. They have been using it for a long time, and they have thousands and thousands of projects. And they've also been providing us feedback from early stages and have been an advocate in shaping the direction of our products. Thank you, Guillaume.
Thank you, Abhi. Hello, everyone. I'm Guillaume Blaquiere. I'm Google Developer Expert on Cloud Platform and Scrum Master and Lead Architect at Veolia. Veolia is a French company present in 50 countries, with more than 170,000 employees. Our mission is to resource the world. Yes, that's all, to resource the world. Quite normal for an environmental company focused on three main businesses: water, waste, and energy. We've been using Google Cloud for more than 7 years. Our footprint is large, with more than 87,000 projects. More than are upstream projects, and actually, we have almost 5,000 cloud projects. Thousands of engineers, external and internal employees are currently working on the platform. At the beginning, 7 years ago, our teams were unsure about using Google Cloud, and they were mostly playing in it. Today, it has become the new normal, and our team have worked to reduce friction and improve security that increase confidence in building in GCP. Secondly, for us, creativity is a competitive differentiator. So, we want to let developers build and not put constraints on them. The security team's goal is to manage any risk without blocking these developers from building. In 7 years, our understanding of risk has improved. While we used to give owner and editor role to accounts, service accounts and user accounts, we are now moving away from this as an example of reducing risk. On the other hand, Google Groups is a real problem for us. Too many with high privilege role where any user account can be added. And so we don't have visibility into risk. Asking project team to choose the right role is confusing to them, and they don't take time to search and test which role are best. We tried educating our user, but we found that to be difficult. So now we want to prevent the bad thing from happening and teach developers what the good outcome look like. So, where to start and how to do that? The first step is to clean up existing projects in production. Yes, in production, because it's critical with access to sensitive data. For this, we have been using IAM Recommender in the Google UI to view and apply the recommendation. The central security team in Paris, my team, does this cleanup in coordination with the project manager to be sure the application continues to run as expected. We started with small projects in production, not the most critical, and we applied without hesitation the recommendation. After successful results on few projects, we expanded this to more than 100 critical projects in production. This cleanup was one time and took 4 months. We found these recommendations to be safe. They had no impact in production, no incident happened, which was great. After this cleanup, we treat any reversal to the bad role bindings as a security incident. To detect this, we use Security Command Center's real-time notification to process primitive role findings. We log them into Slack, we send an email to the project owner, and we open an incident in ServiceNow. The communication by Slack and email leads to the step 3, and to discuss the incident with the project owner. We explain why highly privileged role is not needed and how to secure IAM policy. We use this opportunity to educate them on best practices. During the discussion, we use the policy simulator to show the project owner the impact of the change in production. If the project owner doesn't know which role to assign or doesn't trust the simulator, no problem. We leave the incident open, mark as observed, and after 90 days, we will automatically apply the recommendation from IAM Recommender by API. Finally, to get a company-wide picture of risk, we took the findings data in BigQuery and put that in Data Studio to understand which teams are doing well and where the risk lies. To drive cultural change, we would like to identify country by country which teams are adopting best practices. Then we should develop a roadmap to address this risk with each country. We plan to visit them and educate them further. So, we launched a cleanup exercise as shown in step 1 in the previous process last year. This was very successful. Our primary goal was to reduce permissions on production projects. We started slowly in October, took time to validate the impact in production. Then we planned a huge reduction before Christmas, and the rest in January. We were able to show and remove over 1 million permissions. This number was surprising me. We knew that we weren't perfect on the security side, but we were surprised and happy to see we were able to close so many security gaps quickly. In summary, we had no issue after applying the recommendations. They were safe. Teams are more responsive when we show them data from policy intelligence. And because the data is compelling, it's easy for us to make changes. The next step for us is to apply these recommendations automatically anytime on all projects. So, after working on this, the most important thing for me as a security team member is trust. I trust the data from Recommender. It took some time to learn about it, but now I fully trust all the results coming from it. I would like to thank the Policy Intelligence team for working with us. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing that, Guillaume. It's so lovely to see customers like Veolia who use these tools in such interesting ways. So we're really excited to announce that Policy Intelligence is now part of Active Assist, a brand new solution from Google Cloud. Active Assist is a solution that focuses on reducing complexity in your cloud environment and providing you with a variety of intelligent and proactive features, many of which are based on machine learning. By using the capabilities of Active Assist, you are empowered to focus more on your business and less on cloud administration. Active Assist offers capabilities for members across multiple IT teams, whether it's compute and storage, or networking, or security like us, and cost and billing management, et cetera, et cetera. By using Active Assist, your teams can use the capabilities to help them do many things like reducing and minimizing waste by provisioning VMs precisely or realizing discounts fully, elevating your security posture with tighter permissions and clear and functional firewall rules, and minimizing toil across the board by identifying and fixing issues rapidly and testing configurations before you commit them, all of which frees up time savings and more important endeavors for you to chase like business innovation. And long story short, Active Assist is here to, well, actively assist you. And we want to help you focus on your goals by using intelligence and automation to vastly reduce the time you spend on cloud administration. Now, if you'd like to learn some more, check out our new website at cloud.google.com/activeassist and attend our 2 breakout sessions, CMP 100. And if you'd like to learn more about IAM Recommender in a deep dive session, attend our breakout session, SEC 216. Thank you very much for your time. We hope you enjoyed this session today, and happy IAMing.